in Washington, D.C. I had just ridden my bike down from Vermont after being hired by the Coast Guard to come to Washington. They hired me, and they called me up and they said, well, we'd like you to come to Washington, and they offered me a plane ticket, and I said, I don't fly in planes, and they offered me a train ticket, and I said, I don't use trains, and they said, we'll call you back. And they called me back and they said, how can you get here? Because we know you don't ride in cars. And I said, well, I can ride my bike. And they said, and how long will that take you? And I said, 2 months. And they said, we'll be waiting. And so 2 months later, I ride my bike into Washington, D.C. I stop at the UN office, and there was my wife behind the copy machine. So I cornered her behind the house. Love at first sight. Like that, anyway. That's what I tell her.
Are you involved with a lot of oil spill research nowadays, including the BP disaster?
I'm not involved in it as I used to be. I did go down to the Gulf to talk to the people who were affected by the spill. There are ways that I think that the spills like that affect us that are not monetized. And one of them is just our psychological impact that, witnessing a spill of that nature does for everyone, and especially the people that live in the area and they have livings that they are losing. And yeah, so I did visit the people there, and but I didn't do any other research. I'm more right now about working on curriculum, developing a curriculum using walking and GIS and GPS to share that data, quantitative and qualitative data. And that's our course this semester is called Planet Walking, which is about that. And then we get to go on a walk out in Ohio and walk for 5 days. I'm walking back across the United States, so where we left off on a walk back across is in a place called Prospect, Ohio. And so half of the class is going out to Ohio with some other people who walk with me every year. People are coming from Florida, California, Alaska, and Washington, D.C., and from here, from Madison. So we get together and we'll walk and we'll interview people, and we paint pictures and take images and do some digital photography and all those kinds of things, and make our planet walk.
What were some, I guess, the bigger struggles you encountered throughout your trek?
Big struggles that I encountered. To keep moving, to go on. There were, just times when I would get tired. I said, like, what am I doing out here walking? It's raining, it's cold and wet, and I'd have to get it from somewhere, to keep going. And I wrote a book called Planet Walker, which is kind of talks about those times when I'm just about ready to get in a truck, and get a lift somewhere, and the truck drives off. Had it been left to me, just to me, I would have just gotten in the truck. But sometimes life isn't like that. It's not left to us. Sometimes things happen to show us that it's not all just our strength alone, that it's something else bigger than us that helps us get through that day and keep going.
How do you teach classes when you were talking?
The first day, how do I teach classes when I wasn't talking? The first day, I had a friend come in who understood my sign language, which was an eclectic kind of sign language. And, my name is John Francis, and that's an banjo, right? And I'm your teacher for this quarter, and my students are standing there looking at me, and I don't speak, and I'm taking a vow of silence. They're just like looking like this. Looking for the camera, This is before punk, but it's still, people are funny or something. They're looking for those kind of cameras. And then they started looking at their schedule to see if they could take this class another time. I knew all that, you know, and this is the only time they could take it. So I'd say this is the last day my friend is going to be here to interpret for me, and you can see him getting kind of restless and stuff. Well, after 2 weeks in that class, one person left, which was probably a good thing, and I'd be doing, like, you know, since I was just a TA, there was a lecture, and this is a discussion class, right? So I would get there and I'd be going, you know, and they would be going, everybody was paying attention. That was really good. We didn't have cell phones or texting or anything like that. What's he talking about? Oh, I don't know. What do you think? It's obviously it's about clear cutting. No, that's not clear cutting, because he was using a handsaw. You know, you couldn't clear cut. I know you can clear cut with a handsaw. You know, and someone say, no, that's selective forestry he's talking about. And I would just kind of back out of the conversation, because that's what the point was that it was a conversation. And sometimes I would hear things that I did not mean, absolutely did not mean. And I would nod my head and, you know, I should have meant that. I realized that, I should have meant that. And, you know, my students thought I was just so smart. I knew everything. And I realized then that if you were a teacher and you weren't learning, you probably weren't teaching very well. So that's the philosophy I have about teaching, is that you absolutely need to be learning while you're teaching, and that's our philosophy in classes, that we're all learning and teaching each other all together, so nobody knows everything. Is that the answer? Okay. Well, I thank you very much for having me, and I appreciate your attentiveness and the questions, and I will see you the next time. All right, so go out there and make a difference.
Thank you.
Thanks.